Buckle up. It's time for the Champions of Cinema podcast.
Welcome, sports fans, to the Ultimate Cinematic Arena. I am your host, Joe Walker, and this is the Champions of Cinema podcast. Fellow producer James Marshall and I are diving deep into the heart-pounding world of sports films, the victories, the defeats, and the unforgettable moments that make us cheer, cry, and believe in the power of the underdog. It's season 2, episode 7, James, and it's time for some golf.
Golf. Our first golf film. Sort of surprised it's taken this long.
Well, yeah, especially because there's quite a lot of golf films out there.
Those films don't match, though. I think we've got here the most iconic golf movie of all time.
Well, we're going to talk about how this iconic golf movie reignited golf, or at least ignited golf for some people. But towards the end of this movie that we're talking about today, James. But before we get there, what have you been watching recently, buddy?
I've been on a bit of a vintage rewind, I'd say. I've been, as you might know, I watched the first 2 Godfather movies again because I felt like
fantastic.
You keep nagging me that I need to watch Godfather 3, which I keep putting off because I keep hearing it's terrible. So, well, before I watch Godfather 3, I really need to reacquaint myself with the first 2 films, which I might say are fantastic. Although I probably have a slightly contrary opinion in the sense that I prefer the first one. I think a lot of people like the second one more.
I have finished The Penguin. It is all out now. It is ready for a binging.
That's my watch next week. Then I'll just watch the whole. How many episodes?
8.
Yeah, I'll easily watch
that in
a week.
Absolutely brilliant. I think one of the best villain arcs ever put on a show.
Is it a true villain, or is it a kind of like Tony Soprano, like anti-hero?
The latter.
Oh,
the latter. I have watched this movie that we're covering today twice.
Twice? Is that good, huh? Yeah.
1996's Adam Sandler pretty much written and produced Happy Gilmore.
Happy Gilmore, Joe, which has a second one on the way already. They knew that we were covering it. They knew that we were going to do it. So they're like, okay, well, let's ride off of Champions of Cinema's hype and, get a second one on the way whilst people are talking about it again. So, that check should be coming in the mail soon, I hope.
Well, we'll see, won't we?
We'll see.
I've always said to you throughout the whole part of this process is, we're doing this for the love of it, James, or you're doing it for the love of it. I'm doing it for the money.
You're doing it for the money, yeah. There are endorsement deals I'm not aware of at the moment, but that's,
Subway is completely sponsoring today's episode.
I'm on a podcast internship, basically.
Yeah, you're learning valuable life experience, James.
And networking opportunities, yeah.
Absolutely, yeah, you should be getting into it. And as part of your role, obviously, there's a big part of what you need to do here is you need to give us our haiku of the week. So our short Japanese poem that gives us an insight into what the movie is about in merely something like 20 words. Go for it. I want to hear it.
Swing wild on the green, hockey dreams on the fairway. Play it where it lies.
I like it. It's a good one. It's nice and tidy. Doesn't give much away.
No. What I've been doing more is I've been like adding at some point in the haiku like a line, part of the movie, which like a reference to the movie, if that makes sense. Like as we know, play it where it lies becomes quite a significant part towards the end.
This movie was written by Adam Sandler and Tim Hurley, which they work together a lot. Hurley often does a cameo in the movie. But the two have written the following movies together. Billy Madison, Happy Gilmore, Wedding Singer, Waterboy, Big Daddy, Little Nicky, Mr. Deeds, and Happy Gilmore 2. So they both wrote those all together. And then not only that, but Dennis Dugan, who was the director for this, played the tour president in the movie and also has directed the majority of Adam Sandler's movies over the course of his career. Judd Apatow actually performed a script rewrite for this movie, but was never credited for it.
Oh, right.
Originally had a budget of $12 million, ended up making 41.2, which 1996, 41.2 is not a bad earning at all.
Yep.
And it's filmed completely in Canada. It wasn't actually filmed in America at all.
Wow.
And Sandler knows how to make a sports movie. Okay, Waterboy, The Longest Yard, which is a remake of the Burt Reynolds movie.
Mm-hmm.
Hustle, where he actually plays the coach a little bit later on.
Really good film, that.
And, you know, so he knows what it takes to make a good sports movie. And I think really that comes from the things that he's learnt on this.
If you almost wonder, like, if this film was a bust, would he have bothered trying to do more sort of these comedic style
That's a
sports
really
movies?
good question.
Which we'll get into right now with our 3-act synopsis, right, Joe?
Yes, 3-act plot time. And I'm going to start off with Act 1, Unlikely Beginnings. Ooh. Happy Gilmore, a passionate but short-tempered hockey player, dreams of playing in the NHL. However, he's held back by his aggressive behaviour and lack of skill. When his grandmother falls behind on her mortgage payments and faces losing her home, Happy tries to help her financially. Whilst at the driving range, he discovers his surprising talent for driving golf balls extremely far. A former golf pro, Chubbs Peterson, notices Happy's skill and convinces him that he could make money as a golfer. Although Happy dislikes the sport, he's happy to give it a shot to save his grandmother's house.
Love it. I love it. I love...
It's nice simple exposition here of why somebody is motivated to do something that they don't want to do.
It's a clear
and
motivation.
Money being that motivation is quite good in the first place.
It's money, right? But it's actually kind of selfless because he's doing it for his grandma. You know, this is his caregiver. You know, he was close to his dad, but his dad unfortunately, you know, passed away when he was very young. His mum cleared off somewhere else. And, you know, this was his grandma was his main carer, and he can't see himself letting her just be, in a state-ran old people's home.
Okay, but how old is this lady? This lady is what?
Pretty old.
Okay, she's pretty old. How has she run up $276,000 worth of unpaid back taxes in 10 years?
Parlays, I reckon. Just saying, just gambling debt. Trying to.
Oh, it's undeclared capital gains.
That's it. Yeah, or maybe she's
been better on the spot market.
Maybe she's a crime lord as well. Who knows? I don't know.
Oh,
maybe she's a.
That's always the way to get them.
You can't get them, the infamous Gilmore crime family or something. I don't know.
Talk to me about characters for a start. Start me off with some information on Happy Gilmore himself, the actual main guy.
Yeah. Well, so we already know that he's a failed hockey player. You can't. He's really good at hitting the ball really hard. Not necessarily accurate, but he hits it really hard, which kind of gets him enough attention to be brought along to trials and stuff. But ultimately, he just doesn't. He can hardly skate, which I find odd because I just thought like the skating comes before the skill. If that makes sense. Like I thought, like you have to skate pretty well, and like maybe not like a figure skater, but be able to do the equivalent of like running on
Well, the Kelsey brothers skates. Both said that they played hockey, but they couldn't really skate very well.
Really? Okay, so you just sort of like ambling around. How did he get into golf again? It was, oh yeah, he has that little bet with the repo people. He realizes that I'm actually pretty good at this because it's just like hitting a puck.
That's why he takes steps into his swing whenever he plays golf. Is the main reason why he's able to produce as much power as he does.
And I think
a little bit unconventional.
And that's probably realistic. I imagine if you did that in real life, you'd probably hit it a bit further by doing that, but it's probably less accurate.
So this idea of a hockey player that's good at hitting golf balls isn't something that Sandler just pulled out of his brain, because it's actually based upon his friend, Kyle McDonough, who was a hockey player, who wouldn't they went to the driving range with Sandler and his dad, would always hit balls massively far. And he just said to his dad one day, what, wouldn't that be a funny premise for a movie? A guy who's a failed hockey player who would be a good golfer because he can hit the ball really far. But 400-yard drives, James, aren't special these days. So, 1996, a 400-yard drive might have been quite a special thing to do on a regular basis.
Sure.
But I just had a look on the PGA longest drives stats earlier today, and of the top 17 longest drives, they are all over 449 yards, and they have all been made since 2002.
Yeah, but you got to take into account that technology's improved.
Massively.
He was using dusty old clubs. He was playing at an amateur tournament, which got him in to the pros thing. I think what's also exciting about what I really enjoyed about Happy, not just the fact that he comes from an unorthodox background as a dual athlete, dual sport athlete, like, Bo Jackson, Deion Sanders, he's a real...
Michael Jordan.
Michael Jordan is a real specimen. But the fact that he's kind of a working class hero in this sport, and the fact that he comes from really honest backgrounds and he's thrust into a world which is filled with, it's an old boys club, it's like...
Etiquette. Ugh, the most annoying thing about certain sports. Etiquette.
I always love when we do certain films that take place in America, and I'm reminded about how there is this sort of underlying culture in America. And it's not just here. I mean, here we're surrounded by it. We look at rugby and the cultures and the class structure here. But there is an element of that in America as well. It's sort of like certain hobbies and pastimes are sort of allocated to different classes. If you're a redneck...
What are you telling me, James, that I'm never going to make it in my dream career and sport of polo?
Joe, if that's your dream, as Aerosmith said, dream on. All the sports films we have, it's not just the athlete's story, it's a coach's story too.
Absolutely.
So tell me a bit about Chubbs Peterson.
So Chubbs Peterson, played by Carl Weathers, who we've seen in some other movies, James. And I just want to ask you a quick question about another movie that Carl Weathers is in. So what connects
Dylan!
You
son of a bitch!
What connects this movie to 1976's Rocky that isn't Carl Weathers?
Ooh, okay. I can't think of one, Joe. Company.
Both films have a date scene set on a closed ice rink.
I love it!
And rest in peace to Carl Weathers. He passed away on the 2nd of February 2024.
Wow.
His last role was as Greef Karga in The Mandalorian. Where
Loved
he
him in
crossed
that.
paths with Alan Graff.
Great!
Okay. The great thing about Chubbs Peterson as a coach is we know why he's a coach really simply, and that is because he can no longer play golf because he's lost his hand in an accident, in a golfing accident, really, within reason.
Kind of like you, Joe, right? You couldn't play anymore because you had too many sore throats.
One too many hit from the head.
Hit into the head.
That whole Chubbs missing a hand is actually just an in joke, referring to Carl Weathers in Predator, where he loses his arm. And gets it shot off by the Predator.
No, wait. No, is it? It is actually.
It's the same arm. Yeah. Chubbs is great, really, as a coach. He's got loads of endearing qualities.
We talk about tropes. This is opportunistic coach, reluctant athlete.
Yeah, absolutely. This is what's endearing about both me and Chubbs. There's a great amount of experience and wisdom in both of us. There's excellent patience and encouragement. And we're both out-of-the-box thinkers.
You both created a way of figuring out how to get to working out what's best for specific players.
I mean, it doesn't seem like Chubbs has had any success with any other athletes. Do you think that his mix of skills, ability, and stuff is just perfect for Happy? Not necessarily good for anybody else?
I suppose Chubb,
because he's got a lot of patience.
Well, we see at the start, don't we, where Chubbs is at the moment he's just sort of more like a coaching, like a golf instructor, isn't he?
Yeah, he's a local pro, as they refer
to it. Use your hips, lift from the leg. Like he's kind of just doing it to pay the bills. But it's almost like seeing Happy just smash 400-yard drives. Seeing that raw talent, all we're going to do is figure out how to putt. That sort of reignites his passion. Just
before Act 2, we're having an intermission.
Okay.
And the intermission of our movie is quiz time, James.
Ooh.
So it's a nice little quiz for you. What clothing brand does Chubbs wear throughout the movie?
Under Armour.
No. He wears Lacoste, which is...
That's perfect. That's perfect. Oh, that's so good. That had to be deliberate, right?
It was completely deliberate. Yeah, completely deliberate. If you were trying to hit a draw or a fade in golf. Do you know what those golf terms mean?
Is a draw like straight down the middle, but a fade is you kind of bending it?
So they're actually both bending.
They're both bending.
For a right-handed golfer, a draw is bending left, and fade in is to bend right.
Okay, interesting. All right.
And if you hit draw, it generally has more topspin, which means it will go further. So the majority of golfers are wanting to hit draws all the time. What are the names for each of the following under par scores? Okay, so 1 under par.
Birdie.
Yeah. 2 under par.
Double birdie.
No.
Fuck. It's another bird, isn't it?
Yes.
Eagle?
They're all birds, James. Eagle is correct.
All right,
yeah.
okay.
3 under par.
Albatross?
Is correct.
Woo!
4 under par.
It's got something bigger than an albatross. Ostrich?
No, but that'd be great. That'd be very funny.
A flying bird.
No, it's not an ostrich. It's a condor.
A condor. That makes sense. There we go. Yeah.
And apparently, a condor is really hard to do because it's 4 under par. So if you think you've got to either hit a hole in one on a par five, or you've got to hit. You can get par sixes, or you got to hit two. You got to hit a par 6 in 2 shots. That's going to lead you nicely into Act 2 of Happy Gilmore. Go ahead.
So Happy joins the professional golf tour, attracting attention not only for his long drives, but also for his explosive hockey-style outbursts. His unique personality makes him an instant hit with the crowd, but it also puts him at odds with the professional golfing community. His biggest rival, Shooter McGavin, resents Happy's unorthodox approach and the attention he garners. As Happy improves, Shooter tries to sabotage him, both to ensure his own victory and to protect golf's traditional reputation. Meanwhile, Happy bonds with his grandmother and finds motivation in his growing popularity and the potential prize money.
I must say, I do love that he gets to the end of that first tour match, and he wants his money. Shooter gets his oversized
check
for winning, and Happy's like, "Where's my cash?"
My
like,
check?
"Oh, we send it later."
Oh, I need it now.
No, give me one of the big ones.
Oh, that's so good.
Which I think is excellent.
I think I've just decided that one of my lifetime dreams now is to be given a massive oversized check.
In the second act, we also get to be introduced to the character played by Julie Bowen, who is Virginia Vinette. Okay, do you know what you know her from? Mostly, you've probably seen lots of clips of her. You might not have watched the TV show ever, but you might have seen lots of clips of her in this TV show.
Before Happy Gilmore or after?
After.
I don't know. What?
She plays Claire Dunphy in Modern Family, the wife, the blonde wife.
Oh, of course she does. Okay, yeah, fair enough.
Talk to me about Virginia. I think you've got some information for me on Virginia.
Yeah, so she's a PR representative of this golf tour, and she's you could kind of attribute Happy's success to her, really, because you can first think like, I want Happy Gilmore off the tour. These old heads, who are kind of a bit like Shooter, kind of want to keep golf the old way. But then Virginia, very cleverly, realized that, hang on, look at our viewing numbers. It's like Happy is bringing in a whole new demographic to the sport we haven't had before. And that if you just trust me to let me rein him in, make him more HR savvy, make him, a little bit calmer, a bit more presentable, then I promise you'll be worth it. So, okay, he does it. And he ends up doing it because she doesn't try to change Happy who he is, but instead helps him to adapt to the golf world while retaining his individuality. She's a perfect stabilizing influence on Happy, who's often volatile and emotionally driven, and offers encouragement and insight, making her not just the inevitable romantic interest, but also supportive partner who believes in Happy's potential and humanity. Her belief in Happy reinforces his transformation and helps him find his own balance between staying true to himself and respecting the sport as well. So, really interesting second mentor to Happy, really. Doesn't really know a ton about, can't really help Happy with his short game directly, but sort of just like essentially helps his career still, though, and his prospects of getting enough money to save the grandma's house.
Yeah, she's that mentor, tutor in how to navigate the world of professional golf, right? And TV and all those kinds of things.
And these are really. This is a really this is like a sort of a trope we've seen before. Jerry Maguire was kind of this kind of mentor about like I can't help you catch balls, but I can help you get the right spotlight, so which helps you make more money.
Okay, talk to me about the antagonist in the movie then.
Shoot him again. He's great. I love him. You know,
he's a great character, isn't he?
He's one of the best. He's like, I think of him. He's in that upper echelon with from who's the one?
Ernie McCracken.
Ernie McCracken. They always have to. You have to have good names. It's really important the villains have a good name. You know, Ernie McCracken.
Do they have to have Scottish names? Is it a part of the thing of me and a Mick?
Chick Hicks, you reckon? Is that
Chick? If he was Chick McHicks, would he have been a better bad
Chick
guy?
Hicks. But yeah, he's great. He is a very heightened version of a kind of antagonist. I guess he kind of has to be, because he, I'd say, is more the embodiment of this golfing culture that Happy is competing against. You know, it's not
stuffy. You know, doesn't want to change its ways.
Right, and he's the one who's constantly saying, "Let's kick him off the tour. He's an embarrassment. You know, kick him off the tour." You know, it's semi. I'm threatened by him because he's actually doing quite well. He's climbing up. I can see he's getting better week on week once he's improving his short game. But I'm also he's everything that Shooter's not, essentially, right? Because it's like Happy Gilmore is the ultimate anti-status quo guy, and Shooter McGavin is the status quo. You know, he is the golden boy of golf. He is golf.
He is golf. Absolutely,
he is golf.
He is exactly what golf is as a person.
As a person, maybe not as an athlete, but the people which actively play golf on weekends. I feel like every golf club has a Shooter McGavin in there somewhere. It's the kind of character which I can imagine might have upset the real life golf status quo, being like, "Oh, that's ridiculous. You know, we wouldn't really treat newcomers like that." When they kind of would.
It's literally in the rules that you have to be wearing the right stuff to play golf.
I hate it.
The main members at a golf club are people that are starting to be like my age and maybe a little bit older. Mm-hmm. They grew up watching this movie and then they got into sport because of this movie. There's golf shoes that are in the style of Air Max 95s. There are golf shoes that are in the style of Nike Dunks and stuff like that. Because
I think Jordans have like a subset line.
They do,
yeah.
They do.
Yeah,
because people want to wear that kind of swag on the golf course without it being
breaking rules,
not cool.
His obsession with defeating Happy ultimately exposes his own insecurities and frailties, and despite his skill, he lacks the resilience and authenticity that Happy gains throughout the film.
Absolutely.
Making Shooter's defeat a poetic one.
I think it's in Act 2 when we get to the Pro-Am, which is one of the most recognised parts of the movie, where Happy plays with Bob Barker in the Pro-Am tournament. Now, the challenge for most of our listeners, or for any British people, is they won't necessarily know who Bob Barker is, because
I didn't know. Yeah.
You know, he did The Price is Right, so his show
with the game.
Was The Price is Right,
familiar with the game,
which we have. I think we've had The Price is Right at times in the past, but Bob Barker wasn't originally going to be doing the movie. He wasn't interested in doing the movie.
It was more, to be honest, it was more than just a cameo. Like, he had quite a big thing,
quite a big scene.
Yeah.
But when he learned that he was going to fight Happy Gilmore, he accepted the role immediately. And then they were like, "We're going to make sure. So we're going to use a body double in a lot of this, you know." And Bob Barker was like, "No, I can fight.
Roll down the
I want
hill
to do
with him."
He did everything. Apparently, he did all of it. So that's one of those really cool,
great
sort of tidbits of information that come from this.
Love it.
Not our final cameo in this.
No,
because we also had a really cool cameo from Richard Keel, who famously played Jaws in a couple of Bond movies.
Yeah, right.
Which was really interesting, because by the time Richard Keel was making this movie, in 1992, he'd had a car crash that left him pretty badly worse for wear, and it meant that he was unable to stand and balance without aid, so he wasn't able to stand up. So that's why when you notice him in the whole movie, he's always stood between two people. He's always stood between people because they're holding him up.
Amazing.
Yeah, so he has something to lean on throughout the movie.
He probably would have already had like movement issues because he was so large. his frame was so big and stuff. And doing a lot of action movies probably picked up some stuff, like doing the Bond films and things.
Okay, Act 3. Showdown on the green. Okay, as the tour reaches its climax, Happy and Shooter face off in the final tournament. Shooter's attempts to rattle Happy push him to his breaking point, and it seems Happy might lose everything. With encouragement from Chubbs and his growing fan base, Happy learns to control his temper and stay focused. In a thrilling and humorous showdown, Happy defeats Shooter in dramatic fashion, securing the prize money needed to save his grandmother's home, and in the end, Happy finds his new purpose in golf, with a newfound respect for both the sport and himself.
Ooh.
Okay, couple of things to go over here. Montage, James, brilliant.
Needed push it to the limit, but yeah, still pretty good. Yeah.
No, because it's not using Push It to the Limit, James. It's using Rock and Roll Part 2, which has been used in many, many movies. Now, you might know Rock and Roll Part 2, if you're listening to this, as the Joker steps music from the Joker movie. Okay, that's where everybody knows it.
It's been so long since I've watched the Joker, I can't picture it.
Boom, down, boom, down,
That's been used so many films.
It has. I also want to tell you that it's been in Friday Night Lights, The Replacements, Any Given Sunday, and we heard it in Kingpin only a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, it's one of those songs which kind of doesn't really almost becomes more of a sound effect to try to create,
especially in sports movies,
to create a specific feeling as opposed to just being like it's a song by such and such.
Unfortunately, we get Chubbs' death when he falls out of the window, which is kind of sad. But we do get a nice little like flashback of Chubbs in heaven with Abraham Lincoln and the alligator that Happy has killed, which is just really fun. And we get a finish to the movie where, you know, Happy has to play the final shot as it lies with, in essence, a scaffolding tower that's fallen onto the green and made his shot impossible. Apart from the fact that Chubbs had taken him to do practice of his putting at a crazy golf
situational
place.
Golf, Joe. You know, it's like, you know, we talk about situational football where you prepare for every instance. This is what Chubbs had in mind. Look, sometimes a car runs into a camera scaffolding and you have to play it where it lies. It really heightens and amplifies the use of another trope, dramatic pause in a film, where everyone's just like, they're waiting, like, is it going to go in? Is it going in? Is it going in? Like, it's hard. Sometimes it's hard to do that in sports because it's like things happen so fast. We've also got the bargain, I'd say.
Oh, if I win, I get this. If you win, you get that. Yeah.
Exactly, you know, which is kind of like doesn't really you don't really get a lot of non-monetary deals done in real life, but like in here, obviously, it's quite dramatic. It increases the stakes, right? The villainous sabotage, it's a pretty good one.
I do like a villainous sabotage.
You know, yeah, I mean, sabotage, fictional sports movies, they almost come hand in hand. You even have to look at. Even in films that aren't about sports but have like a sporty scene, I'm thinking now about like The Phantom Menace with Sebulba does some sabotaging to, you know, Anakin's pod race so it crashes down halfway through it. And then it feeds into the comeback trope when the guy starts off way far behind. Yeah. Or the protagonist falls right behind and then has a roaring comeback. You know, it's much more exciting than just having level, you know, leading the whole race wins. It's, you know, very trope heavy, this film.
It is very trope heavy, but I think that's also because we're becoming more
aware and conscious.
Yes.
We're linking the dots. We're seeing, you know, how all these films are a part of the same glorious tapestry that is sports movies.
I want to ask you about, well, we know, James, they've already announced there's a sequelizer coming for this.
But we don't know what it's about.
We can get much.
We really know much about it. We know that.
No.
We know that Happy's in it. We know that Ben Stiller's side characters in it. Obviously, you know, inevitably.
Yeah. We know that Shooter McGavin's going to come back. We know that Virginia Vinette character is in there again. But this is the short prequelizer that I've got for you, and we're going to see how on the nose I'm going to be when it comes out next year.
Let's hear it.
After 22 years of winning the Pro Golf Tour or being involved in the Pro Golf Tour, Happy Gilmore learns that his grandmother has passed away. and decides to defeat Sappy Jonas at the new Pro Golf Tour with the help of his old enemy, Shooter McGavin. We'll see if that's correct when it comes back round.
Okay.
James, give me your... tell me about this. Is this popcorn for you, or is there any art in it?
Oh, this is unfair because, like, it's... Yeah, I mean, I guess it is...
This question is never about... It's never about popcorn being a negative thing.
Sure,
it's about, is it entertainment or is it an art? Is it art?
I mean, yeah, on the face of it, it's an entertainment film. It's a film which is meant to make you laugh. But what I've really enjoyed is that, you know, as this is a sports podcast film and not a comedy film, this is a sports movie podcast and not a comedy film podcast, is that there is plenty, for me, I know you struggled, but I think for me, there's plenty of sports to take out of this film. And
yes, I agree.
And ultimately, it's kind of like as we've previously mentioned, there is a genuine existence of dual sport athletes, of athletes making transitions. Sometimes it's successful, sometimes it's not. But circumstance motivates certain athletes to make these big changes, and it can be a very daunting challenge. And most of the time, the athlete is told you probably can't make that change. It's an example of a kind of rags to riches is extreme, but in terms of like realizing that dream, that that it's possible, and it's kind of like Happy Gilmore is a story about of perhaps the wildest instance of this dream being realized, but the concept isn't alien, like it is real, and the way that this film tackles not just this difference in sporting, in a contrast in different sports, but also in class, adds an element of art subtly into this film, I think.
James, give me a rating.
I mean, I want to say it's if I'm thinking about, so remember my rating is that I'm thinking, does this, in this film's classification, which isn't just, it's, you have to think more specifically in terms of, this isn't just, don't just think of something in terms of a sports movie, but like I'd fit this under the classification of entertaining / comedic sports movie. It's also a golf movie. I think it's a champion in the sense that it's very iconic, and if I ask people to think of sports movies, it's very good. Maybe because it's a little bit unbelievable in the sense that he goes from absolute amateur to suddenly a pro golfer in less than a year, because it's an entertainment film. Maybe knock it down to contender?
I'm going to suggest this. I think it's an iconic contender.
Okay.
Because it is the movie. If you say golf movies, if you were playing Family Fortunes with Steve Harvey and he said, name a golf movie, you'd probably name this.
Yeah, this would be the highest scorer.
Which is great, but it doesn't necessarily mean this it's a champion movie.
Is there anything different you'd have liked from this movie? Is there something like, I wish this film had this? Because sometimes that's when we're doing our rankings, it's like, if there's nothing you change about this film, then kind of, if it's as best as it can be, really, of what it's trying to be.
I think it could have had... Yes, I think there are things that it could have been better with. I do think there are things that it could have been better with, but I think it was limited by the time that it was made, and maybe I'm looking at it through a modern lens.
We've talked of this a few times about how sometimes comedic value and comedic tropes and concepts sort of interfere with athlete sort of motives.
Yes.
So Chubb's death was kind of a comedic one, because Happy turns around and says, "Look what I got you," and it's it's the alligator, and he falls back. It's an unexpected death. It's kind of a gag. That then that cuts short what would have been a really good stretched out
payoff.
Yeah. It's like, because they wanted to make it funny, have like something a bit unexpected and tragic, rather than having a slightly more fleshed out coach-athlete relationship. Because remember, Mickey didn't die until Rocky 3? Rocky 3. So it's not like, having a death ruins the potential of a sports athlete relationship, but you need to at least flesh it out a little bit. You know, look at Doc. Doc ends up going, doesn't he, in Cars? But at least we get enough screen time where we can see the relationship evolve. Whereas this time, Chubbs and Happy was kind of cut short a little bit. So, I feel like, and this is why I think it's very hard.
It's a high contender.
This is why we can't. I don't think we'll ever really have a comedic sports film which we give Champion, because they've had to make sacrifices from a sporting perspective to make it a really good comedy. So I think a contender's fair. I think.
Yes, I think high contender does make a lot of sense. I think you need to have an element of art in your sports movie for it to be a champion.
Mm-hmm.
And if we're missing art, then that's a challenge. And art is difficult in comedy. It's not impossible, but it's difficult. I'll maybe recommend you some comedic art movies in the future. Okay, that's great. Well, we've got that down, and fantastic. And James, that brings us to really the end of the episode.
Yeah,
which is great in some ways. You know, nice to wrap this one up. But we always say at the end of every one of our episodes, you know, we thank each other, and I say, you know, if you want to get in touch with us, if you want to get in contact with us, you can do so through our social media, which is
Champions of Cinema.
And you can send us emails at
championscinema@gmail.com.
Fantastic. And we've had an email through of our emails.
Giddy.
It's nice. It's a nice one. So I'm going to give you a quick readout of this, and I'll try and do my best with reading it. It says, "Hi James and Joe. I'm not a huge fan of sports movies, but not going to lie. It would probably be at the bottom of my list of movies genres that I'd like to watch. However, recently listened to your Cars episode with my kids and really enjoyed it. To me, Cars is an easy watch, something that you don't particularly need to concentrate on it. And it would give me a couple of hours of peace of quiet. That being said, I really enjoyed how James looked deeper into that movie. It wasn't just another Pixar movie. He dived deep into the characters and storyline, and it was clear that he felt so passionately about it. It left me wanting to watch the movie again with a new perspective. Joe, I guess you contributed somewhat to that too. Anyway, onto my question. What was more of a request? I would love to hear you both pitch your sports movies to each other, which we're going to do, James, in a separate episode, so we're going to save that one for later.
Ooh.
What would your movie be called? What's the premise of the movie?
Okay.
And what would you like to cast as your leading roles?
Okay.
But there is a side question that I want you to answer today, and that is, going back to the old movie days, Blockbuster, which was a place that you could rent movies before you were born. If it was still around today, would you be the sort of person to return your movie on time, or would you be getting charged late fees for returning it?
No,
so that's the question.
No, I couldn't do that. I don't know. I wouldn't do late fees.
No, I wouldn't either.
Because I'd watch it. I'd watch it. I mean, how long would you get? How long are rental agreements? A week?
A week, I think. Yeah.
I thought I'd probably end up watching the film on the same day I rent it out. So
generally, that's what you did do. You drove there on a Friday night. You went in. You picked a movie. You picked up some M&Ms and popcorn, and then you went straight home and you watched it. And what was great about that was, you know, you had it for, you're supposed to have it for a week or 4 days or whatever, and then you generally watch it again. You know, you'd rewind it and play and watch it again, potentially.
Get your money's worth.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so Hannah, thank you very much for your question.
Thanks, Hannah.
It was really nice to receive it. We will answer your question on the pitching of sports movies in a special episode between season 1 and season 2.
I really enjoy that.
Season 3.
We'll have to off recording. We'll have to discuss maybe a theme that we both have to go along. Whether it's a sports film in the style of insert director's name, or
a certain type of sport,
or includes a certain actor, or maybe I love that. That'd be really fun.
I think we're going to do that between season 2 and season 3. We're going to give that a little bit. We'll take a bit. I think we're going to take a tiny little bit of a break, and then we're going to make those. Sure. So just hold out for those, or maybe find it as a little extra, an extra bonus episode, because we do like doing those bonus episodes where we can. Mm-hmm. But that's it. We've come to our end. Happy Gilmore, really enjoyable. I had a fantastic time getting prepped for this one, and really enjoyed making it. James, thank you so much. Mm-hmm. Let's get excited for the next movie that we're going to cover. Which, my lord, James, the next movie is an absolute tour de force. If you haven't seen this movie, it is ridiculously good.
I haven't seen it yet, Joe.
Oh my god!
So this is going to be. I know. This is so.
This is either going to go one of two ways for you, James. You're either going to be like, this is the best movie, one of the best movies that I've ever seen, or it's going to be far too 70s for you, and you're going to struggle with it.
Doubt it. I mean, as someone who appreciates Godfather, Deer Hunter, Scarface was 80s and that, wasn't it? But I doubt. I'm sure if it's a good film, it has the reputation it has. I'm sure I'll like it.
Well, it's De Niro, it's Scorsese, it's Raging Bull.
Oh, I forgot Scorsese did it as well. Oh my goodness!
It's got Pesci in it as well.
And look how different it is to the one we've just done. To the film,
we're sort
recently,
of flipping. We're flip-flopping a little bit.
I love it, but this is the beauty of sports films, right? They're not only are they different sports, but they're completely different styles. They've chosen different ways of conveying their stories, whether it's a comedy or through a gritty. We know what Scorsese films are like. They're not necessarily light watches.
No, not in the slightest.
So, yeah.
And on that note, we're going to call this one to an end.
Yep.
Thank you, James.
I'm
excited to get around to that one. And
yes.
Thank you very much, everybody. Thanks for listening.
Thank you, everyone.
See you next time.
Take care.
Bye.